ready for agenda item 5, which is the Manchester Recreation Trail. And there's been a lot of discussion on this over the last week, as we hoped there would be. John, are you going to lead us in on this?
There was a huge number of moving pieces on this. As you know, the board and I've gotten, it's a little confusing when somebody emails me, whether they're emailing you as well. So I forwarded a lot of those emails to the board. I also tried to respond to as many as I could. I apologize ahead of time if somebody emailed me and I haven't gotten back to them, but I do read them all. And I'm sure the board does as well. So the board met last week on Tuesday, and we've done a lot of different things since then. Thursday, a very large contingency of town staff, including me, Janet Hurley, the planning and zoning administrator, who's also an avid bicyclist and rail trail person, was there. Jeff Williams went a little bit earlier on his own. He wanted to avoid the larger crowd, and he brought with him Jeff Sprankle, who is his number 2 when it comes to these kind of things. Gordon Black, the town assessor, economic development, went down the trail, and the police chief, PJ Owens, went down, and then the town engineer, Chrissy Haskins, was on the tour. And then we were joined by Bill in the parking lot twice, but he had an engagement. And then Jim Hand and Amy and Robin Werner were on the tour. So we went down. We only went down to the Riley Rink property, so it was a pretty good loop. It was a little slow going for a couple of reasons. One, we were having a lot of discussion along the way and taking a lot of measurements as well. We brought with us a large tape measure, a measuring wheel, and a digital level to measure slope throughout there. I sent the board, actually it turned out to be a little bit longer than I thought. I told Bill I don't get paid by the page. The memo was 9 pages long. It's a little bit longer. There was a lot of summary data on there too. I want to make sure everything was well covered. And there was one picture on there too, one map on the piece. So actually, Ivan, does it make sense to kind of share that and just go through the agenda? Or go through the memo kind of point by point so I don't miss it?
I think probably that's the most concise way, and even though it is 9 pages.
Bill's going to...
Bill.
John, I just, to bring up the activity piece up to date, do you want to talk about the meeting Sunday also?
Oh, yeah. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, so then, sorry, I was skipping ahead there. I actually was hoping to mention that. So, and then Sunday evening, Bill and me and Heidi Chamberlain from the select board. Oh, by the way, sorry, I'm looking right at Heidi and Greg. Heidi Chamberlain and Greg Cutler were on the tour as well, both ways, and they're in the memo as well. So, and then later, Heidi met with me, Bill, Seth Bongartz. Heidi, what's the name of the rail trail executive director? Not the rail trail, land conservation.
Dick Richardson from the Vermont Land Trust.
And then
right.
Who's a select board member in Bennington, but also on the board, I believe, of the Vermont.
Don Campbell.
He's the Southern Regional Director of the Vermont Land Trust, and I think he's the chairman of the Bennington.
Mm-hmm. And the point of that meeting was to discuss different grants that could come up. Who could apply for those grants? So there were 2 that came up, obviously. The one that we had applied for before through the Vermont Department of Transportation. And the second one is one actually that was the one that was actually, I believe it's the only recreation grant that we've gotten in maybe since the 70s, but it's the Land Water Conservation Fund. And I believe It is funded through offshore drilling revenues, actually. And that represents a 50-50 split. The federal highway transportation money represents an 80%, 20% state local match. So I don't think, I think I probably talked for, or speak for Heidi and Bill, hopefully, that nothing definitive came out of the meeting on Sunday as far as any efforts that could be successful in a not-for-profit ownership versus a public ownership, public being municipal. I don't know if they agree with that comment or not.
I would say, John, though, I think it was the general consensus based on where we are and what the other options might be, that this project makes the most sense as a town-owned project, town-owned and operated project.
Right, which gets me into the review of the project from the municipal standpoint, which Bill and I sort of gone back and forth. He has seen this memo ahead of time. I think you've seen it for a couple of days, Bill, the memo. It's certainly a work in progress. I sent him a draft earlier. I sent him the final as well. So I just kind of go through from the municipal ownership perspective, what it would look like.
Okay, and before you do that, John, I just want to, for the benefit of everyone who's participating here, I see we have 30 people. The reason there were 2 select board members is because we can't have more than 2 select board members. We can't have a quorum of the board
Yes.
without warning it as an actual meeting. I think we had the best and the brightest attend that particular event.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. Yeah, two is okay, 3 is bad. 3 is a crowd. That's the old saying.
I'm stuck on best and brightest, John. Just, let's go back to that point.
Yeah, we all heard it, Greg.
I thought I heard it.
Greg's already putting up business cards that say best and brightest, item 80. So the purpose of the memo is not to list the benefits or the disadvantages to the town ownership. We didn't attempt to go into analyzing impact on property values. We didn't look to do any analysis on economic development. I think I've read a lot of studies over the years as far as people, different sides of the issue having arguments that bike trails are a great thing or bike trails are not a great thing. I think we've all seen those. The most recent study I've seen suggests that property values go up next to a rail trail. I think there's other studies that suggest otherwise. We decided from our perspective to not get into any of that, listing out any of those arguments. That did seem like a little bit of a rabbit hole. We tried to stay focused on what's the current condition of the trails, talk to some experts on both current code, ADA regulations, and then anything that could come up as a safety concern. And we'll get into a couple of them. I'll talk a little bit about ADA and then what the state recommends, which are not necessarily the same thing. For people that haven't read this scoping study, you can actually find the scoping study on the town website under the document center. There's something there. There's a link on the memo here as well. And I think if the board wants us to put this memo up afterwards, I'll put it up on the website as well as a PDF. One thing I want to say is normally something like this happens over a little bit more of an extended period of time. Ivan, this was a less than a 1-week process between last week's board meeting, organizing all these schedules, writing up this memo. So I apologize for any typos in the memo, of course, or anything else like that. But we had a very short period of time to actually take a look at this and collate everyone's comments.